Hi, I'm Adria Breyer, and before I begin, you know in Hollywood they say that's a tough act to follow. Dr. Levy, that was fantastic. Thank you. We at Smart Life and Silicon Valley Health Institute are ahead of the game in everything. That's what started the organization. You have questions here that are ahead of what most of the population knows, and you have speakers here that are ahead of the curve before a lot of them even get published in magazines. And what Steve said about listening to periodicals is so true. Marcus Freudenmann is one of those people. He has gone around the world for the past 10 years with his family, interviewing doctors and researchers and the top people in their game in holistic approaches to cancer, healthier approaches to cancer, cutting through the junk. In fact, I have to brag for a minute. Marcus interviewed me in January. I was so flattered and thrilled. He brings, well, I guess the best way to say it is right here. Marcus is an international game changer in how to deal with cancer. How do I know that to be true, aside from personal knowledge of Marcus? His website, this is his first national tour in the United States. His website was hacked 6 times and brought down after his tour began. Now, we're a pretty open-minded group here, and we're much more realistic than many other groups about what really drives cancer in terms of money and pharma and all of that, yeah? So you could say one time it was a technological error, a second time maybe the fix wasn't good, 6 times it's intentional. So what incredible information is Marcus bringing out to everyone that these bigger powers don't really want him to bring out? I'm not going to take up any more time talking about what I know of Marcus. I'm going to let him do the talking. But he is absolutely incredible. Listen to everything he has to say. One point, though, is that we think that everything that alternative is necessarily should have credibility. Not necessarily, because a number of the people who are out there with alternative, which I hate the term alternative, are people who are just selling things. Marcus cuts through all of that, too, and he brings it to you on an international level. So you are in for an incredible treat. Marcus Freudenmann.
Now, I'm set up. Yes, hello. I don't need to hold a microphone. Before I was always talking and I didn't have it with me. Okay, I'm really excited to be here today. And as you know, we're doing a tour through America, actually around the world. And it's kind of fascinating because we get to see this whole world. And it's really beautiful. I love America. I've been here along California and well, starting from Mexico all the way up to Canada several times, but I've never been on the other side, so it was a real journey. What we do is, yeah, kind of different. I'm not a doctor. I'm an architect, interior designer, graphic designer, artist. I studied at the Art Academy in Munich, and I actually have no interest in health whatsoever. My wife has, and she's put me up front. But the main issue is that we've done a lot of work in trying to publicize doctors and get their knowledge out to the world. We had a very good friend. It was my best friend and secretary, and she was diagnosed with cancer. And my wife, when she was diagnosed, said, let's do some tests, let's do some checkup before you go to the doctor. So they did a nutrigenomic test, they did some blood test, some stool tests, and you know, like the whole thing to see the whole picture. And then she said, I wouldn't go to have chemotherapy because look, all your detox pathways are completely eliminated. You don't even have any detox pathways active. And then we checked, I think it's the organic acid profile. There was a lot of issues. And so Sabrina said, why don't we build up a protocol? And Jeanette said, okay, that's cool, we do that. And let's just work on it very fast because I have progressed cancer. And then she went to the oncologist and he, well, talked her into having chemotherapy the next day. Actually, he threatened her in such a way that she fell over and agreed. And then she came home and said, well, I don't know what to do. And it was really getting nasty. Then Sabrina went to the hospital and we talked to the doctor and we showed him the reports and everything. And he said, get out here. And he actually, we didn't have visiting rights anymore. So we were kicked out of the hospital. And that was building up my momentum that I needed to do the job that I'm doing now. I got really angry. So we started to interview doctors. The first doctors that we met in New Zealand, whenever we put up the camera, they said, okay, I'm not talking anymore because I'm going to lose my license. I'm not saying anything in front of a camera. I tell it to you personally, but not publicly. So that was a no-no. We visited 6 or 7 good doctors, and they told me a lot of things, and I learned a lot, but we didn't have a chance to bring that to the public. So we tried that in Australia. That was even worse. In Australia, there is no one. There is harassment. The only person that spoke up was Jenny Burke, and she was a very good friend after a while, and she lost her license. She's running now a private health club. And I tell you what, that works well because she's in a protected environment. She doesn't treat. She just manages the health of her clients, and she's doing really well. She lost her license, by the way. So there was like a lot of involvement. Now, I speak German. I'm originally from Germany, so we packed up and left for Germany and said, okay, now let's just research what they have to say. And wow, everybody knows Germany has no limitations to alternative medicine. Almost every naturopath can do ozone treatments. It's a standard. They have leech therapies, and just as you said before, with your tonsils. I've never seen that before, but in a normal clinic, a very professional clinic, they use leech therapy on the tonsils and saliva glands and pull out the pus and pull out the toxins, and they remove cancers more than most oncologists ever have done in America. So there is super treatments, and they are stone old, and they are used. So I was in for a treat. And we started to research and to learn. And we stayed with many clinics 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. And out of a 6-month journey that we had planned to do the trip, we extended to 3 years. And after 3 years, we came home with a head full, with a, I had footage, I think 20 terabyte of data. And then I started to sit down and look through all my videos again. And then I sorted them again. And then after that, I filtered them and cut snippets out into different rooms, departments as I call it, detox department, inflammation department, dental department, all of that, and just made this thing into a manageable project. And then after that, I cut all of the dental department into one slot, and then started to sort what the doctors say and cut one out and the other one over, which means I know everything they said by heart 50 times over, and my children too. Like it was editing and cutting, and then we ended up with a 6-hour movie, and we said, nobody's ever going to watch that. So to cut out important parts, it took us almost 4 months. And then I sent it to a friend, and he said, that's boring. They all talk about cancer. I said, yeah, I know, but we have to find the essence so that everybody is excited to watch the movie. And it just never turned out to be short enough for them and enough for me to leave all the good parts in. But then we published the movie. We sold over 50,000 copies in 2.5 years. And we had it streamed online through all media channels. And that was about, I would say, 500,000 to more streams. And that was really cool. And the movie was Cancer is Curable Now. But I hated the title from the day it was published, because nobody read the subtitle. But it is not cured with medicine or drugs, but with knowledge. And that title was too small. Everybody was just reading, it's curable, and where can I find the doctor who cures me, and who sells that remedy, and where can I get it? And that defeated the purpose that we wanted to show. But when you have a business set up, and you have a company set up, and you have 1,000 business cards printed, and all of those things, you're reluctant to change. And everywhere I went with my title, and I went to several of the big chains, they said, with that title, we can't publish your movie. So, well, in the end, Manuel was kind enough to come up with a new logo, and we brainstormed the name Truly Heal. And again, it has a subtitle, which is really important, which we learned on the way. It says, truly heal your body, your life, and the world. Because there is a chain reaction when you start working on healing yourself. Because all of a sudden you change, you use different things. Through that you change your life. You have to repair many things besides your chemistry. A lot of people ignore that part completely, but there is passion, joy, like all of the things that make life worth living. So we add them to the program. Now that turned out into the new movie, and I have these left. The Commonwealth Club, I think they took 3 each. So everybody who wants to have a movie, just afterwards pick one up. and they are free for you. They arrived yesterday, hot off the press. Is it still there? Yeah. The book to the movie is online published since today. So you can go online and go through and you can see it. I've added hundreds of video snips, hundreds of little clips and information to it, and it's completely free for everybody. We charged for a while a membership fee, and then I put up a donation button, and you know what? I get more donations than I charge. So now we charge completely nothing anymore, and we have on every page a little donation so that people can support us. We would like to get that information out to everybody. I don't want to sell knowledge, and it shouldn't be. It should be available for everybody. But on the other side, we have to live, and it's very expensive to accumulate all that information, so donations are welcome. Now, the next step after we've done the movie and written the book and all of those things, then all of a sudden a clinic approach doesn't say, Marcus, I'm struggling. Every single day clients come to me and they talk about treatments that I've never heard about. You know, I work from 7 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock at night. I don't get a lot of time to go to conferences and seminars and everything. So can you put down a protocol for us that incorporates the best treatments around the world? Everything that's relevant, because I know we're missing out on a lot of things. We're missing out on many things that we could do. And I said, yeah, that's okay. So we started, and that was a 3-year project. We interviewed hundreds of experts, put all sorts of information together and deciphered, did a lot of research on PubMed and all the medical studies to bring that together. And the protocol is actually turned out very different from what we thought it would be. It's not like a list of things that you can do to buy more health, because I think there's plenty out there. It's actually more come into something that is to do with removing the causes. Because as soon as you start looking at the causes, what caused it, and let's face it, in the last 40 years, 50 years, we've increased from 1 in 10 to 1 in 2. So what did we change? Is it only diet? Is it only deficiency? There is a whole range of things that we've destroyed in the DNA process of children. When you look at the statistics for freshborn children and their life expectancy, it's doomsday. You know, you can all make faces like that because that's scary what we're heading for. And, you know, the biggest issue is a lot of people are still looking for that. Let's smoke and drink and have a party and celebrate and still get old. There is a concept, and that's something my children always say, you know, Daddy, it's getting more and more complicated to find a good girlfriend. And I said, why that? Well, I have to look at her DNA, at her health, at what kind of cosmetics she's using, at what kind of upbringing she has, if she has knowledge, whether she can cook. You know, like even the lipstick is already a challenge. And it is, we've lost a lot of things, and it makes life very difficult. And when you look and buy a horse, what do you look at? All their DNA, their breed, their upbringing, all the food, everything. Well, with humans, we ignore that fact. But we get sicker by the day. We have started 3 years, 4 years ago to do DNA tests. And we started with FitGenes and Smart DNA and all sorts of laboratories and worked with them. We worked with some of the world experts in DNA, nutrigenomic reading. So, and to my list, because we have a big database, a very big list. So we sold something like about 5,000 tests. And out of 5,000 tests, you get a very clear image on what is the main predominant impairment for cancers. And I tell you what, it's MTHFR impairment, which means you cannot methylate. And the second one, which is very predominant, is the detoxification pathways, which are impaired. Mostly it's detox phase 2. Detox phase 1 is not that much, but as well, but not that much. But detox phase 2 is greatly impaired. And the great thing is when you have such a large volume, and mostly cancer patients, because my clients or my readers are all cancer patients, it really gives you a clear indication. Now we started to sell the test to younger generations as well, to children, to find out whether they are heading towards collision course or whether they have a better understanding. And all of a sudden we see that they have it even worse than the old ones. And why is that? Well, because of the toxins that impair the DNA. because of the inherited toxins that we have. Anybody familiar with Ken Cook, EWG, Environmental Health Group? 10 American Babies. Have you seen that? If not, watch it. Go on YouTube, 10 American Babies. Ken Cook, EWG, and watch that. When you see that they have now, all babies born today have up to 280 toxins in their umbilicum cord and their blood. They have 180 carcinogens, 150 nerve and brain toxins. They have 120 infertility toxins in the umbilicum cord, in the blood, when they're freshly born, and then we wonder why we get sicker by the day. It's the accumulation, and if you can't detox, how many of you do regular, ongoing detoxification? Yeah, well, we have a very, very knowledgeable audience here. Normal people don't do that. Coffee enemas, oh, really? Do I have to? That's a bad thing. You know, poo, we don't talk about poo. So there is like a huge resistance, and that's what we thought we need to break. And that brings us to, well, I covered that. That's pretty much with the history that we did, and I won't cover that. And that brings me to our main project. It's the multitude of problems. I get every day about 50 to 100 emails, and luckily I have now a few doctors who help me answer them, because it was a nightmare, and I always like, help! And I wrote to them, they wrote back to me, I wrote back to the client, now I have a few that help me. But it's kind of very challenging, because people come with specific problems. It all comes back to the same. It's always based on toxins, inflammations, deficiencies, EMF sensitivity, stagnant beliefs, you know, like having really a stuck mind. And how many do you know that are completely screwed up? And that's true. They are stuck in their beliefs, in their fanatic beliefs, or in their anger, or in their frustration, or in their resentment. And if you don't break them out of that, it's really challenging. Then you have dietary protocols. How many do we have? Okay, which one do I pick today? Which one is the right one for you? So all of those things come up as questions. And how many times do you think I get those questions? 100 times. And it's over and over the same thing. Everybody's confused. Everybody's irritated. And then we have a very big problem. They go to a conventional doctor, or 4, or 5, or 6. What do they get? The same diagnosis, the same treatment. And then they go to 4 or 5 different alternative health practitioners. What do they get? 10 different variations. And it really confuses people. And that's the end result that comes back to me. See, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not dealing in that high-tech field. I'm more like the mediator between the two. And that's where I realize the biggest problem is. One is very fascinated about their research study, and they publish papers and they proclaim things. But the people that actually have to use this stuff, they're overwhelmed and completely confused by that. And that's where I see my role, to bring that together and actually help people to understand it. And that's why we made the movie and we developed this program. This program came about from the work of Dr. Rudolf Steiner, you know, anthroposophy. I went into a Steiner school, so I couldn't drop that. But we developed, oh, look at this, it works. I don't have a pinpoint, I point to you. We have in the middle, we have the blue body, which is our physical body that everybody can touch. And then we have the okay, thank you. Top one? Okay, perfect. This way? Yeah. And then we have the vital body, which is the green body. Now that's me doing movements, doing all the things over and over again. I'm not there all the time, but it's still a very physical presence. Habits, things that we repeat every single day. Things that we bring into our life, like eating, sleeping, all of those things that we do unconsciously. And then we have our mind, body, mind, and spirit stays the same. All our thinking processes, and everybody who is familiar with the work of Hammer and German New Medicine knows that there is a huge emotional factor to cancer, and we can't ignore that. We can't leave that out. If a person is stuck in emotional trauma, you can't get them well. If a person has no joy in life and has no fascination for anything, you can do whatever treatment you like, they don't get well. We actually had that a lot of times when a patient, you spark them, you find the trigger, you find that thing which really sparks their life, and all of a sudden the treatments respond. All of a sudden the fever goes up before it didn't. All of those things are really relevant. And then we have the next one, which is the spiritual body. And spiritual has to do with what I call the fuel of life. That thing which motivates you to do. Why are you here? Anybody has a reason to live another 10 years. Why? Tell me those reasons. There's actually a lot of clinics that start doing that now. They ask their patients, write me at least 400 words what you want to do for the next 10 years. Well, I want to continue my trouble with my wife. I want to continue all the stress that I have at work. I want to continue with my bad and shitty diet and stomach aches and bloating all the time and my worries. Well, if that's what you want to continue for, you don't have a reason to stay here. And that's one of the biggest things that we discover. People need to have a passion and a purpose. So these are the 4 bodies that we study in form of an evaluation. Questions? Questionnaire? 250 questions. And that's already the best filter. Do you really want to get well? Then get first through the questionnaire. And you find people there, I can't do that. I can't concentrate long enough. And it's actually true. There are people who are so brain fogged, who are so numbed by toxins, who are so deficient in fatty acids, in all of those things, that they can't think that long and concentrate. Especially people who had chemotherapy, they're far gone. So we had to break down the test that they can do it in increments. And then you get, first of all, a very clear evaluation. It takes you about half an hour to read through that, what they answered. But that already, we marked a little bit of a list. It's in the book and it's in our program. It's actually a list. As you go through, you can say, okay, endocrine system, hormonal system, gut. You can just go and mark it through. And in the end, you get like a proper analysis before you see the patient. And it gives you a clear understanding. And for them, it's cool because they first time have to study their poo and how it looks. Does it swim? Does it stink? Does it sink? You know, like all of those things that they probably have never ever looked at. So we guide people through that process. So when they come into the protocol, we already know what they have and what their main constitute. How well can they observe themselves? You know, I'm fine. I just have bing, 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 bing. You know, everything else is okay. And that's where you realize how far away people are from their disease. Now, one of my personal observations that I came to was, what is the main purpose of disease? What would you guess what I see as the main purpose of disease?
To teach you what you're doing wrong.
To bring us back to connecting with who we are. It always brings you back. How many people of you know that, or know other people, when they get a diagnosis, that they sell the house, go to the Bahamas, and celebrate? Anybody know someone? Come on. If you have a diagnosis for the last 3 months of your life, would that be not a logical conclusion? And then they live. They still don't do it because there is a very, very deep instinct within of us, and it's called survival mechanism. So what do all cancer patients do automatically? They start cleaning up and clearing their life and seeking for solutions. It's something that they do. And that's when you find when they start clearing up old relationship issues, when they start looking at diet, when they come to all sorts of changes and cleaning life. So why don't we do that right from the start, and we do that very consciously, and we look at all angles. And that's what we do with the program. So I would like to take you through, very simple, through the main steps that we have in those different bodies. In the spiritual body, we look at purpose, motivation, stillness, balance, gratitude, appreciation, and love. And these are very important issues. And I've seen patients turn around on the spot without having any treatments once you bring them to a balance and stillness, a stillness of the mind. And I'm not talking about sitting still and thinking. You know, we all know that doesn't work. And meditation is very challenging. It's a year-long process. But stillness within their challenge. And we use a process which is called equilibration. Anybody familiar with the work of John F. DeMartini? The collapse process? I love it. I tell you what, I've studied with the best in the world, with Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, Christian teachers. I studied pretty much everything under the sun, and I met Dr. DeMartini, and it kicked me right into position because it's one of the most powerful equilibration processes of the mind. And once you know and once you understand it, if you want to read a good book, it's called The Collapse. No? Oh, it'll come in a second. It's a very beautiful book. The Gratitude Effect is one of them, and the other one is Prophecy. Prophecy by Dr. John F. DeMartini. So that's what we use to bring people into that stillness, into that equilibration. And it works like a charm because all of a sudden they let go of their tensions in their main areas of field where they have problems. Then you add some exercises to it. I adopted some from Dr. Finn Scott Andersen in Denmark in Humlegarden. I said that today during lunch or dinner. It was really nice. Every morning he had all his patients take off their shoes. And it was elderly people, sick people, cancer people, barefoot, winter or summer, it didn't matter. And they walked out into the garden. On the way out, he pricked their finger, put the blood underneath the dark field microscope and showed their blood. Clotted, clumped, whatever, coin rolls. And then they had to walk through the garden for half an hour barefoot and go and had to hum a song. And they had to do it very long humming, short breath intake, long humming, short breath intake. What did they do? They oxygenated the body more than anything else. They grounded themselves. Negative ion flow went through. They came back into the room. They did a prick of the blood, put it under the dark field microscope, and the blood was bubbling and was floating. The red blood cells were bouncing off from each other, and they were recharged. And he said, now you're ready for treatment. Now, these are the things that we enhance in that field so that people become self-reliant, that they find ways to bring themselves without equipment, without a doctor, without anything, back into an energized state where healing can actually happen. And yeah, there's many things. If anybody's interested, we're running a 2.5-day workshop starting tomorrow at Livermore at Dale's Luxury Retreat. So if anybody's interested to come, yeah, it's going to be very exciting. It's our last one this year, and it's a prerequisite if you want to join the qualification program, because this is an online 1-year program. You work with 2 doctors and my wife, Sabrina, to study this whole program. And afterwards you're qualified. You're listed on our website as a practitioner. So it's mostly interesting for health practitioners who work in that field. But yeah, we've signed up over 60 on that tour now, and it's our first round in America, so it's kind of exciting. All right. It starts tomorrow evening, yes, at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, and then it's Saturday and Sunday all day. Stagnant values, energy reasons, thinking, you know, like all of this stuff that we have to do with our mind. And that's, again, something that we have to look at. Unhealthy beliefs, hard judgment. Would you believe that there are people that when you start working on those issues and you relieve them, that they change physically, visibly, change? One lady, I said it already today, she came in, she looked a bit like one of those dogs on TV, hanging eyes, hanging cheeks, everything was hanging. And, you know, she came in like, hello, already miserable, complaining about everything. And everybody was like, oh, no, not that one. But she was complaining about the treatment was too hot, it didn't work, nothing worked. We simply worked on her judgment about other people and understanding how she saw herself in other people. How she was actually reflecting her own emotions, her own mood, her own things that she didn't like in herself in others, and how she could change that. And just kept working with her on a psychological level. And this lady switched around, and you would not believe how she changed physically. She walked out of the clinic with short hair, absolutely, she looked like facelifted, and everything had transformed. She got home, she had breast cancer, she got home, kicked her husband out, sold the house, changed her job, changed her fashion, did pretty much everything, started a charity, an organization within her community, completely transformed her life and is cancer-free now. But it was not the cancer. The cancer was a reflection of held resentments, anger, sitting in a situation that was crappy. Would you agree that that can make you sick? We always say, what makes you sick? Okay, that can be your husband. So, I'm not saying you send them all away. Okay, stress is a big one. And I said already, it's not like having a tiger once in a while. We have stress all day long with children, with work, with everything. Stress produces cortisol. Chronic stress produces acidic body. It causes adrenal burnout. It causes inflammation. You know, it's like a whole chain reaction from stress. Stress is number one to be resolved. And can we resolve stress without resolving the lesson? No. We need to learn the lesson. Why do we have stress? If I have financial stress, can I resolve it without earning money? No. Because I need to learn how to remove that blockage. Because it's my blockage. Earning money is not a problem. Many people do it. But some people have a block. So removing that and learning what their block is, what their belief structures are, and all of a sudden the stress goes away. And that's in relationship. That's in everything. So it's an important part that we include. And trauma, grief, and fear, you know from Hammer, it's really important. So addressing that requires some knowledge. And this is where we try to train our coaches really, really well, because this is a work that a doctor has rarely the time to do. It's really not possible. And to go to a normal shrink where you lay on the couch and you just say non-stop the same problem and you reconfirm it, doesn't work either. So we need to find alternative ways. And we've built out of the best protocols that we could find around the world. I was working with Bruce Lipton, with DeMartini, with Wayne Dyer. We really worked on stunning programs, and that's what we've put together so that this is really a resolution and not just another gadget. And then we look at habits. Now we come closer to the inside, to the body. And you see I started outside, which is, again, something very different. Most people look first at the cancer, and then they treat the cancer. And they never look at the surrounding who has the cancer. Why does that person have the cancer? So looking from the outside in gives us a completely different overview of the patient's needs. And then we look at toxic habits. And that's, you know, when you go through the whole list and I unfold them, there is like 280 slides. When I unfold them, there is just going to bed and where you sleep. This is a big problem that most people don't even look at. You can sleep on an outgassing, formaldehyde-laden, flame retardant-filled mattress with spring coils and foams that are so toxic. You have your wireless router on your bedside table, the TV running opposite, and then you wonder why you're sick. There is like heaps of things that we need to look at and how to clean out that space and how to bring that in order. Then exercise habits or non-existing exercise habits, dietary habits. Again, I had a lady come in, said, I have every evening my glass of milk. You know, that's really good, Indian heritage. So, and I have psoriasis, I have eczema, I have asthma, I have pretty much everything. And oh, could it be that you have a food allergy? Oh no, not against milk. We have that since generations. You know, just doing a simple food sensitivity test or doing an exclusion diet to find out what you're sensitive to, and then excluding those foods for a while, and then you reintroduce it, and then it's going to hit you like a freight train. And that's what we had. I had a very beautiful experience. One of the doctors said to me, Marcus, you know, when you have sugar spikes, it's not good. Cancer grows very fast. It's the insulin spikes that you have to avoid. So you have to have good oils and good fats. And the best is if you put 2 eggs raw in your smoothie in the morning, some maca powder, some blueberries, some kale and spinach leaves, and it tastes beautiful. Some water. If you want a little bit of rice milk. And I said, that's cool. I did that, and I put some almonds on top. Well, I got worse and worse and worse. And somebody said it before. You said it, C-reactive protein. My immune globulin A, which should be between 20 and 2,000 in extreme cases, I was at 6,800. My inflammation markers were through the roof. I had asthmatic problems. Well, I was eating everything organic, everything healthy, everything from the bio shop, everything really perfect. Not one single sweet. My whole family looks like Manuel, slim and thin, and I'm the only one, bang. So I couldn't lose any gram of weight, nothing. Okay, food, exclusion, diet. Has anybody done that? And you drop out every food that could cause a food reaction, and then once your body is completely calmed down, when you, at the morning, you jump out of bed with excess energy. You can't hold yourself. 5 o'clock in the morning, my wife said, eat your foods again. You know, like, it was really, I was bound full with energy. And then you introduce, in my case, eggs to it. I'm highly allergic against eggs. On the IgG, not, what is it, the IgA test, I was on 6, so pretty clearly I had the eggs. My pulse rate went up by 40 pulses. Cold sweat, complete breakdown. I had to lay down for half an hour and just recover. Just because I left it out for 3 weeks and reintroduced it, my body just, bang, it hit it. Then I had 2 days break, build up energy, everything was fine, and then I introduced my almonds. Now, I'm allergic pretty much against everything, which means I have highly inflamed gut, I have leaky gut, a lot of indigestion, and that's the whole cycle, you know, and that means you can't lose weight as long as you have inflammation. Inflammation of fat causes inflammation, so the whole cycle. And that brought me to that clarity. We need to go back to basics. Instead of treating here a symptom and taking another supplement and doing this, we have to come back and really just calm everything down and then look what is the best diet for you. What does your body need? And how do you deal with it? Milk can be great for some, but it can be detrimental for others. And that's what is really important. And stress. Okay, and that brings us to the physical department, and that's where you are probably 10 times more expert than I am. But what we do is, in the protocol, we look at DNA damage. This is now, for all of our clinics that work with us, that we recommend a mandatory. Because if you have detox pathways blocked, and they start a nice detox pathway, you said it before, do it slowly, you can cause more damage. If your detox pathways are blocked, and you start to detoxify internally, not via sweat and bath and zeolite and EDTA and all of that. You start to detoxify via your liver. You poison your body over and over and more, and that's detrimental for health. So we need to find how to activate and how to bypass those things, those impairments. Then we look at deficiencies. We heard already before, vitamin D is a crucial one. Without enough vitamin D, vitamin K, zinc, selenium, magnesium, it's not possible. Do we test them in serum? No. That's what your standard doctor does, but a holistic doctor should test them in full blood, because otherwise you have no correct results. Again, this is something when you look at all the blood, I get every day, people send me their blood, they say, look, it's all okay, I'm all perfect. And then you see it's tested in serum. Now your body will leach out of the bones, will leach out of every organ, every mineral that it needs to keep your blood perfect, because otherwise you have a heart attack. So to find the right test and the right protocols is really crucial, and we do that. So deficiencies we look at, and in cancer, it's quite a range. Now I'm going to look into calcium now as well. I haven't added that to the program, but I'm going to give my wife your book, and then she can add it. Inflammations. We all know that inflammations are really, really, really dramatic in increasing the risk of cancer, in maintaining the cancer, and in suppressing our immune system. Now, how many forms of inflammation can we have? Good. Yeah. Most people don't think that they can have brain inflammation, skin inflammation, arterial inflammation, bronchial inflammation, you know, like gut inflammation, which is the biggest organ, and that's something that needs to be addressed. If that is not brought down, like in my case, as soon as I started to bring that down, I'm on a juicing diet since 6 weeks, I lost 37 kilos. No, pounds, 37 pounds. 40, almost 40 pounds, 20 kilos. Now, this is the first new shirt that I have. The other ones are that wide. My pants, 5XL, went down to XL. So it's yes. And only because I reduced my inflammations. So it's really important that we look at those things and include them. Viral and fungal infections. Many of the cancers that we see, most blood cancers as well, are very often related to yeast infection, fungal infection. It's not just a part of the treatment or it's just a breakdown of the immune system. It's often a cause. We know that many viruses that we have are directly related to cancer and that we need to address them. And there is many ways to do that. Dr. Keith Scott Mumby wrote a nice book. It's an ebook that you can download, which is all the natural antibiotics that are available. And it starts from garlic to the sapper to laser light to everything. And when you look at the whole program of all those natural antibiotics and we work through them, it's a huge range, starting from colloidal silver and all of that, but it needs the education that you replace and build up your gut bacteria and everything. Now, the next one that I would like to just talk very short about, dysbiosis of the gut. I've never, ever imagined that to be important. Somehow, it didn't relate to cancer for me. Yeah, well, I'm not a medical person. You know, for me, there was no relationship. But then I understood it, and it was a nice image, and I'd like to share that with you. It was kind of, you know, for layman's people. We have willies. Anybody seen Nemo, the fish? So those willies are pretty much like the breeding ground for a whole culture of bacteria. And they swim in there and they digest the food. And the poop that they do, or whatever they excrete, is what the body can absorb. And it goes into the body in form of vitamins, nutrients, minerals, and everything. It's not you who digests your food. It's the gut bacteria. You have 2.5 kilos of bacteria in there, and they digest your food. Now, what happens if your gut is alkaline? How many of you have alkaline water at home and drink that all the time? And best you do a lot of it, you know, like big gulps, especially right after your meal, right before your meal. I have done over the last 2 years now a bit of a survey, and all those people who have alkaliners at home and alkaline water and drink that regularly or drink regular pH 8, 9 water, they have gut bacteria, pH of about 7 to 7.5. Wow, that promotes rotting bacteria. Nothing is broken down in the natural form. Your pH to be optimal should be between 6 and 6.5 in your small intestines. So that's why we need to come back. Hard to digest food, fibers, they increase acidity in your tummy, which then breaks down the food, and then you have a proper acidic environment, and then adding probiotics and adding sauerkraut and fermented foods and everything, and all of a sudden it works. Same thing, I've added probably the last 5 years probiotics to my diet. One time I took the one from my daughter, then one from my wife, then we were traveling, I bought a new one, and then I bought one here, and I was using about 20 different types over the last 5 years. And then there was a published research study from Italy that said if you don't take the same brand, at least 6 to 9 months, they won't establish. Oh, no wonder mine never established, because your gut has a resistancy, a bacteria resistancy, because otherwise, if you would go on holiday, well, we know you get some bacteria overload and then all of a sudden you get diarrhea, but they still defend their place. They would not budge. And this is where we call that resistancy is one of the main issues that we need to overcome. That's why if you take the same strand morning and evening and you take that over 6 to 9 months, all of a sudden your gut flora starts to establish. So if you change the brand and you use different strands, well, you start again from scratch. Hormonal imbalances, I won't cover that, but it's crucial. Again, adrenals. Adrenals are usually the primary cause. A lot of people look at their thyroid, and they look at all the thyroid hormones and thyroid replacements and all of that, And well, the first thing they forget is iodine. Do an iodine loading test to find out whether you really need it. And because that's what your thyroid needs. But look at your adrenals first. Adrenals, it's the OAT axis. If that's something that is not addressed, it's blocking the whole flow. And then your thyroid will shut down. And it's always stress related. And when you look at the factors that challenge your adrenals, it's immense. And we've done a lot of tests over the past 2 years. Every single one, and especially cancer patients, and it's probably the diagnosis, it's the disease, it's everything together, and everything that led to it, which caused that big problem in adrenal burnout. So it's one of the factors that needs to be looked at. Dental toxins, okay, I have here a very short chart, and I'd like to just point that out. All teeth are located on meridians. And Dr. Rau in Switzerland from the Paracelsus Clinic, he's actually my main mentor in that regards. He has a dental clinic and an oncology clinic. And every single patient goes into the dental inspections. They look at root canal filled teeth. They look at cavitations, which are nasty things. No, this is different metals in your mouth. Did you know that that's cause number one before the bacteria and the toxins in your mouth? Different metals, the galvanic process within those two. Look, this is, it's hard to see, but this is an amalgam filling beside a gold tooth. The tooth turns black in very, very short time. There is a current. You can you go to Radio Shack, buy those little LED lights, and put that onto a gold tooth, and on the other side and the salt water, and this thing will shine up. I didn't believe it. Dr. Rau showed it to me and said, look! So, removed. But this patient here, colon cancer, all they did, palladium, implants, crowns, some gold, and here's some amalgam fillings. Now this guy was pretty screwed, right? It's a very expensive exercise to repair that. $25,000 later, and his cancers started to go back. Like you said, teeth are number one. I don't want to go as high as most of the doctors do, but Dr. Rau's statistic is 97% of all cancers related to teeth. There are other statistics out that show about 70 to 80%, but it's a very high rate. And if you don't get rid of toxins in your mouth, which are placed on those meridians, and check it out. You know, those charts are available on the internet. You can find them anywhere. If you find that your back teeth, like those back here, are sitting and then you have breast cancer and there is, well, then that's directly correlated. And then look after those things. That's the first thing that they check, and they look at all the different teeth. Now, anybody familiar with cavitations? You said it before. Cavitation is when a tooth is pulled and the infection stays underneath. The first thing that closes is the gum and then the bone, and the bacteria load stays in the bone. And those bacteria produce thioethers. They produce a really toxic gas which leaches into the bloodstream, and it kills your liver, it kills the whole body, it's highly toxic. And it's the same toxin as happens within root canal filled teeth. You have the enamel outside, you have the root inside, which is filled, and then you have in between the dentin. And the dentin is like a coral, like a sponge, thousands of little tubules, miles of tubes. And they are all filled with nerve and blood supply. And now they drill out the middle, and outside is the enamel, and then your tooth sits there and starts slowly, in a warm and moist environment, to rot. And the bacteria that build in those little tubules are deadly. So if you have root canal filled teeth, like you said, there is no way to rescue it. A lot of people then try to ozonate the tooth and drill everything out, and they try everything to rescue it. It really is a much better solution to pull it, have a little bridge, or have, you know, dental issues. You can have zirconia implants and do them a little bit later. But there's many ways. But with that toxic load in your mouth, to overcome cancer is very challenging. Again, Bill Henderson, I think many of you know him. I think his protocol is very lightly superficial, but it is very accurate in dental situations. He has put a lot of people to the dentist, and as soon as their teeth are done and cleaned up and they have gotten rid of all the bacterial load, all of a sudden their health improves dramatically. So it's something that we should not ignore. Okay, to come to an end, I would like to just go through the main treatments, because a lot of people think when you go overseas you get those high-tech treatments. Failed. Number one, laser. We all know. How many research papers are on red laser light? Thousands. You can go to PubMed, you can find so many. This is how they do it in clinics. They put a little needle in, and then they feed in a long rod with red laser light, and then the blood flows by, and that's how they stimulate and activate your immune system. They kill off bacteria, they kill off fungi, and they mark or how do you call it? Protein. They build a protein to your floating cancer cells so that they can be detected by your immune system. So, huh? Yeah. No, it's a protein reaction. It's not heat shock proteins. It's another form of protein that is developed through red laser light, and that marks your cancer cells, your floating cancer stem cells, as a cell, as a cancer cell, so your immune system can address it. Now, what we found is that this is very invasive. Anybody been to a cancer clinic? You get infusions all day long. People get needle phobia. They can't see needles anymore. They look like junkies. Their whole arms, they try on the feet everywhere to get those infusions in. If you stay there for 3 weeks, you have 5 days a week infusions. You hate needles. So when I found the device, and it's actually a cancer device, when we sell it here in America, it has to have the label, do not use when you have cancer. But it's an actual device that is used in Japan, and I call it, it's called V-Light, and they are amazing. In your nasal cavity, all your blood vessels are right at the surface. That's why you bleed when you hit your nose. They are right at the surface. It looks like a tree in there. And then you shine red laser light. You put that nozzle up your nose. I didn't bring mine. I hope. No, I didn't. So you put that up your nose. You walk around like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for 20 minutes. And it works like a charm. People have, because it shines through. Have you ever seen a skull? It goes through the skull. There is only a very thin membrane between the two halves. So the light shines into your amygdala, shines into your brain, and it activates endorphins and all sorts of happy hormones. And we've seen changes, and this is, again, long-term research, long-term study. You can see on PubMed many of those. Okay. You can do plenty of those things, and it works. So try it out. This is a really great way. 2 minutes or totally out? Okay. I just go very short through the treatments. Local hypothermia, it's a little mat that is put on the person wherever they have the tumor. It radiates radio waves through. The antenna is underneath, because cancers are laden with heavy metals, are laden with ionic processes. So because of the high metabolic rate, they heat up and the surrounding tissue stays calm. They go up to very high temperatures and actually melt the tumor. This is one of the treatments they call melting the tumors like ice in the sun. Then we have full body hypothermia, which boosts your immune system. It's actually artificial fever that we create. And if we add that fever in a regular interval once a week to the program, it's amazing. It boosts the immune system and it detoxifies. And then we have PMF. And we found that PMF is enhancing every single treatment manifold, because it activates your blood, it charges your body. Now, if you don't have the money, go out in the grass and do it there. If you have the money, this thing has actually also anti-cancer properties, and it's used in Europe as a proper cancer treatment. They use that to fire directly onto the tumor such high impulses that the tumor membranes, which can't hold the 80 millivolt charge, they fall apart. And then they follow up with detoxification, IV, and heat. Okay, and that's actually something that we do on all our workshops. We have dark field microscopy. This is the blood before, and this is the blood and the white blood cells exactly after 15 minutes or 20 minutes of that treatment. Now, when you see that difference, and you know that only a fully charged red blood cell can carry oxygen, and can carry all the nutrients and can carry all the anti-cancer remedies, well, it makes sense that you use that first before you do any other treatment. And that's why all of the European clinics have that as a standard. And here in America, you're not allowed to say that it helps, okay? And I'm not allowed to say. And I'm just going to finish with this. This is your immune system. This is a white blood cell under the dark field microscope chasing bacteria. Now, would you believe that this is a friend of yours? And you have millions of them. And they chase and they go. This is sped up, but this is how they do it. And all of them, they learn. See here, all the little ones? They learn what they have to catch. And if a white blood cell is trained to catch bacteria, they will catch bacteria. Those who are trained to do cancer cells, they will catch cancer cells. And that's a system that lives within us. And that's the friends that we need to support and create the most beautiful environment for them that they can do the job. All right? Thank you very much.